Hi, everybody, and welcome to the final Cleveland Browns post-game show of the season. Unfortunately, our Browns came up short 22-17 against the Kansas City Chiefs. What an interesting football game, all you can ask, and again, all that I asked for, I was wished and granted. And that was that the Browns had their hands on the ball in the fourth quarter with the chance to win the game. And what I'm going to focus on isn't going to be a whole hell of a lot as far as the complaining and whining that I know that's going to be online, but to point out that when you have the ball with 8 minutes left to go, and you get that first down, but the play calling, I was really a little bit disappointed in what amounted to no drive at all, except one first down for the Cleveland Browns. I thought that they allowed the pressure from the Kansas City Chiefs to bother them, and they should have gone to the power running game more consistently at the end of the game in that last drive. Kansas City looked worn out to me. Even on the sneak, they were pushed back 3 yards. They looked tired to me. And instead, by giving them life by passing the ball and letting them blitz and put pressure on Baker, and running some slow, non-developing play on the right side instead of something that was a more definitive play call, I think we hurt ourselves in what turned out to be the last offensive possession of our season. And then to take a look at the 3rd and 14 thing, this has been a defensive thing all year for the Cleveland Browns. Did they think that the 35-year-old man would take off and run down and get virtually enough yardage to get the first down and then throw for the first down? Well, I knew they'd get the first down because the Cleveland Browns have not been good all year at defending in situations in space like that because, and once again, I'll say we're too slow. Our guys, they went to their speed wide receiver. They went to Tyreek Hill because if you just run him east-west in a pattern, he'll outrun anybody on the Browns. All right. So that's why that play was gone to at that point of the game. Giving up the 13 and a half yards to Chad Henne is a situation, once again, where people turn their heads, follow receivers downfield, and they don't look what's happening upfield, and they never saw him taking off, and he had a clear path and a clear line. And these are the defensive mistakes that prevent you from getting into the AFC Championship game. There's going to be people who are going to, and people are saying Chad motherfucking Henne, but Chad Henne didn't do anything, not really. He took a sack when he couldn't afford to take a sack. He threw a dirigible into the end zone directly into Robert Joseph's hand for no good reason whatsoever into double coverage. He was not Carl Joseph. Sorry, Karl Marx. And honestly, I don't find that anything he did to be outstanding. What I will say is this. Some people will say, well, it wouldn't have been a game if Mahomes hadn't come off the field. And I have something to say about that. There's probably the strongest thing that I want to say about this football game. And Andy Reid did a great job trusting his backup quarterback to throw that last pass and to come in and do a few things, which is great. But when you have an opportunity to be third and in short yardage, and you have a quarterback who's been limping around the entire game with a bad left foot, who is your franchise player, to allow him to run the football in that situation, negligent a thing to do as what the Washington Redskins did to RG3. The fact of the matter is, if he never clears the concussion protocol, which he will, because he will. But I'm saying they have nobody to blame but the coach for a horrible play call. That is, to me, the worst call of all year. all year. The guy is limping and his foot is hurt, and you can get that yardage in so many different ways. Why would you choose that way? So I don't want to hear the excuse that, oh, you know, and it was a clean tackle. There was nothing about the tackle that were on the play in which he got hurt that would have indicated, except that his helmet hit the ground. That's you know, it looked to me as if his helmet hit the ground. And he literally looked like a fighter who got hit with a right hand and he couldn't get back up, you know. And again, we're going to point fingers because this is the Point Finger Show. Welcome to the Point Finger Show. I'm your host who has to explain to people, you know, look, Joe Woods was a defensive guy with the 49ers when he had talent and speed. He doesn't have either of those on his defense. What he had on the defense this time around was a Myles Garrett who was clearly hurt, all right, and still sacked the quarterback when he was clearly hurt. He had linebackers in the game who aren't even professional NFL linebackers, and he still has defensive backs on the field who shouldn't be playing. And like I've said 16 times, and I'll say it 16 more, and I'll just start throwing people out of the chat room. If you can't have the speed, if all a team has to do is put Tyreek Hill basically in motion, running east and west and throw him the ball, and he'll outrun every one of your players to the flag, it doesn't matter what your scheme is. Why do you think the scheme is what it is? And I don't mean to get mad at you, Browns gratification, but everybody is saying this. Why is the scheme the way it is? Because we don't have the speed to blitz, the bulk, the athleticism to blitz, and you've already seen in weeks past, if you try to go man-to-man coverage on the outside, it's fucking, you know, Linda Ronstadt blew by you. That's the reason why. Do you think that he wants to play a scheme that leaves the field, the middle, wide open in the middle? Do you think Joe Woods is happy with what he's got on that side of the ball? Stop it. Just stop it. And, you know, and again, the finger pointing continues in the chat room with ignorant comments like this. And as a matter of fact, that this one is so ridiculous that we're going to put him into we're just going to block him. It gets so old. You know, we're playing with who we have, and they're playing with who they have. And the players were going off the field like there was no tomorrow. On 3rd and 14, it was too conservative. Guys were covered. You know, I don't know what you want. If you
there's no separation. Where's he supposed to fucking throw the football?
Yeah,
aggressively, you know, when we left the man wide open because we played aggressively and went after the quarterback, and you know, on and on and on it goes. After the fact, 2020 hindsight. That's not what we're here for. The fact of the matter is, what was too conservative in the game, in my estimation, was A, that we didn't come out and run the football in the beginning of the game to establish more power, to wear them out more later in the game, and 2, because we came out on the field looking like we were in the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime. You know, we came out a little bit tight in this game. And you saw that we were wearing them down. The running game was working. I wish in our last possession we would have taken advantage with more of that kind of power blocking rather than run what appeared to be a handoff to the right in which Bitonio couldn't even get outside because they had committed all the men to that side of the line. I really question why that play was called offensively. Mm-hmm. But the 3rd and 14, no. I mean, you cover people downfield and you prevent them from getting a pass to get the first down. And there's got to be somebody there there's got to be somebody there spying the quarterback, and there wasn't. And I assure you, somebody didn't do their job. You're going to point to Joe Woods, but the fact of the matter is somebody, whoever that somebody was, and I'll find the film on it, just didn't do their job. So, well,
and the whole game, the Chiefs receivers, whether they're running backs, whether they're the tight end, whether they're the Tyreek Hill, they all got at least a yard and a half of separation.
yes,
it was an easy throw. Anybody could have made those throws.
That's exactly right. I could have made the throw. The play is called, and it's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put Tyreek in motion, and you're going to lob it to him. Yeah. That's it. That's the play call. And look, play design is an important thing. And when play design works, it works. When a play breaks down like that, there's supposed to be somebody accountable to spy on the quarterback, even if it's a 35-year-old guy. All right? That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Raw Dogs is saying that explain the offense. And I don't know what, I mean, that's a wide and broad question. The fact of the matter is, in the second half, the Cleveland Browns outplayed the Kansas City Chiefs, had the ball in their hands with 8 minutes left in the game to take the lead. That's all we could have asked for under the circumstances. If you play this game 100 times, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win 98 times out of the 100 because, like I've said 47 times before, and we'll say 47 times more, as long as you keep pointing fingers, that the Cleveland Browns only had no offseason at all, and the bad luck of having Delpit go down and Greedy Williams go down. We never found out what we had in our defensive secondary. We were rotating a bunch of roster pickups. We were ending this game once again with Hance at the tackle and at the left tackle, which is an important position. This was a year of challenges, and look how well we did. And instead of glass half empty, which I know a lot of you guys like to do because you're whining crybabies, you should be cheering for the Steelers and crying with Ben Roethlisberger. You should be proud of what your team achieved this year, because under the circumstances, with no practice, no preseason, and for multiple games during the year, no practice. I mean, you tell me another team that would have had the character to come back from 19-3 behind to make this a football game in the end. I don't know what you're complaining about. The offense, Baker Mayfield threw one ball late where he stared somebody down, and it seemed that Jarvis Landry was waiting an eternity for a ball that never came. And when it did, it was like room service at a bad hotel. It came late, okay? So that's all I'm going to say bad about Baker Mayfield. He made several great throws. I think that the team offensively was doing what it was supposed to get back in the game. They were mauling and they were running the football, and they converted third and fourth down plays and did a real nice job. No complaints, really. In explaining the offense at the end of the game, I think I've adequately done that. I think that you need to have the best plays on your sheet, the best execution plays called. And I think Kevin Stefanski, as a first-year head coach, has as much to learn as a lot of the Browns players who've never been here before. We could just as easily be talking if the Browns went down the field and we won the game 24-22. If that would have happened, I'm quite certain people would have been saying, well, we didn't really beat the Chiefs because Mahomes wasn't in there. Because that, again, is the whiny little ass kind of people who show up, unfortunately, to these types of programs. That's the definition of social media, is just, triggering people. I'm proud of my team. I think they put up a great fight. I think that all of these games, we were as competitive as any other team. And I want to go off of this whole situation of having to explain away things by saying what I believe to be the case right now, which I did not believe earlier on in the season. And that's the big picture, because it's easy to focus on the small picture. The big picture is that the Cleveland Browns, if you they're better than the Steelers, heading in the right direction. The Steelers are heading in the wrong direction. The Steelers are getting old. The Steelers are weak up front, and their quarterback is an encrusted mummy, okay? They're going backwards, and they have no backup quarterback. They have nobody who they've groomed for the position all these years, and the Steelers are in a payroll crisis, all right? And the Baltimore Ravens, based again on another performance by that team, tells me that their defense is very good, but they are as incomplete a football team as the Cleveland Browns, but are in worse shape than the Cleveland Browns. It has nothing to do.
Their people are all complaining about the center position and the offensive line needing a serious upgrade.
There's more to it than this. With the Ravens never devised a scheme.
Oh, and they want to draw and quarter Greg Roman. So
that's right. Greg Roman never adapted to anything. He's not let Lamar Jackson grow. And let me explain something. There is no great risk dropping Lamar Jackson back to pass more because he can escape the pocket and make just as many big plays as he can running silly option plays, which he shouldn't be doing. You're exposing him to harm. And the Ravens, because of their inability and unwillingness, and this goes from Harbaugh to Roman on down, they're not allowing a young quarterback to be able to establish a different part of his game. And you're not going to lose the big play capability of this young man because, you know, in the pocket, if he can't find somebody, the guy, that's just like a punt return. Every time he goes back to pass, but he can't find somebody and he escapes the pocket, he's like Eric Metcalf was. It's like a mad scramble punt return.
Or Randall Cunningham when he was with the
Eagles. He's way better than Randall Cunningham. This guy's the best running quarterback in the history of the game. He is by far the fastest player on the field. I mean, he's going to make the plays with his legs, but if you never let him make the plays with his arm, then, you know, what are you doing? You've got Snell, you've got running backs who is their running back?
Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus Edwards.
Ingram has been on the outs all year, and the offensive line did not perform for the Ravens. And, so I look at them, and they have just as many problems as we do because they need to replenish sides of the ball, and they got to get a new coordinator. And I dare say that they need to get a new head coach because he's not addressed this problem for several years.
Yeah, plenty of the fans were saying that too on the one podcast, Ravens podcast. They want Harbaugh gone, Greg Roman drawn and quartered, and they want a new offensive line and a star receiver.
Yeah, Bronk.
Yeah, Peter Ellis play of the weekend's got to be the pick six that Lamar Jackson threw. That's regardless of what happened in the Browns game.
Again, you're down 10-3, and you're in the red zone, and you make that throw, and that was a throw that looked very, very reminiscent of what Baker was doing earlier in the year, that he would get tarred and feathered for. He just didn't see the guy. I don't know why he didn't see the guy, but that's the kind of thing that kills you. But that's not a reason. If he cannot become a drop back passer, then use him as a punt returner. The fact of the matter is the quarterback position has to be able to throw the football, and you have to find out what the young man can do. And if you continually just allow him to run, so he ended up the game whacking his head in the field and getting a concussion. It's only going to get worse for the young guy if you continue to put him in running situations against 300-plus pound guys where he's going to get hammered. And one time he's going to cut and the knee's going to go in the other direction. This is not what you want if you're the Ravens, and this is exactly the reason I compare what these coaches are doing to their players is what they did to RG3 in Washington. is that
and once you get one concussion, then you get another concussion, then you get another concussion.
Or if you get one knee injury, you get another knee injury, and you get another knee injury, and you're never the same again. You know, that's and I agree with Mr. Askew here. You know, I'm not putting my support behind Joe Woods, but I want to see professional starting players on our defense.
Yeah,
And
we need 7 guys back there. We need 2 new Pro Bowlers. You know?
And the fact that Stefanski is an offensively minded coach and is a very brainy guy helped our offense understand what they're supposed to do. At no point did I see during the season that the defense, if they did understand it, they just couldn't execute it. And what they were being asked to execute was like Defense for Dummies, the black and yellow covered book. You know, we were trying to hide weaknesses on defense rather than asserting strength. Yeah, you want to assert strength. That's what defense is all about, and we don't have the personnel to do it. So I'll wait and wait in the offseason and see how that comes along. But I guess what I'm saying is that our situation within our division is good. It is really good on the way up. And Pittsburgh faces a dilemma. Cincinnati, I think, is going to be on its way up a little bit, but they have to get an offensive line to protect Joe Burrow, who already has a significant knee injury under his belt.
Yeah.
And have somebody to go with T. Higgins and a running back.
You got to have an offensive line to protect him, because they can't have Joe Burrow just scrambling around after knee maybe something like that. But I still think that they have the ability to be an ascending team, and if they won 4 games, they could win 6 or 7 games. I could see this coming to pass if they get protection for the young quarterback. The Steelers, I can see just falling apart. I can see Ben wanting to play one more year, working it out with the Rooneys so that he manages for less money to come back, and really getting slammed to the turf and his career coming to an end next year. And the Ravens, it's going to be, who do they hire? And if they don't hire a new offensive coordinator and they continue doing the same thing, again, what I noticed in the Buffalo game with the Ravens is that the Browns would not have beaten the Ravens. All right. Don't say that, we got the bad luck of the draw because we had to play, we had to play Buffalo. The Ravens would have beaten us. And the reason is we're slow and we can't catch anybody. And that's exactly what happened every time we played the Ravens. Is anytime Lamar Jackson wanted to keep the ball, he would run east and west and outrun everybody. It's the same pattern. If you don't see it, you're just fucking blind. Okay. Now, what I will say is this, is that if
Buffalo had the personnel to stack the box and make it effective.
That's right. And you saw what they were able to do. They were able to keep him within certain confines, but the most significant part of it was that they were able to react more quickly and close on him before he hit those top 2 gears. The Browns are so slow getting to somebody that in a case like Lamar Jackson, he's gone. Let's be honest. They allowed a 35-year-old guy to pedal toward a first down marker at the end of this game. We just don't have that quick read and quick reaction, and then the speed to hunt the ball. We'll get it if we draft as well on the defensive side as we did on the offensive line side and getting our defense up. I don't think that we're going to have a top 15 defense, but shit, all we need is the number 18 or 19 defense in the league, get some fucking stops, and we would win games more comfortably, and we would be able to assert our running game more in the ends of games, which is our real true strength of wearing people down, rather than feeling like we have to go into our passing hurry up at the end of football games. So I think we're in good shape. And again,
and before we get too far, congratulations to Kareem Hunt for scoring on his former team. That was a very nice thing to see.
And I'll tell you another thing I wanted to say. And it has a lot to do with what the last several shows are about. I think you win with grace, you lose with grace, and there are no excuses after the fact. I think for what we had, we left everything on the field. We did everything we could. And God only knows we had a touchdown that fate took away from us before the end of the first half that would have made this score very different in the end. There's a lot of things that could change during the course of a game, and that's one unfortunate thing that went against Cleveland. But, one of the reasons I'm never going to sit there and say, yeah, Mahomes is out of the game. I don't like to see people get head injuries. Second of all, there's nothing bad or evil about the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll say something else. I didn't want the Ravens to win, but do I have a great love for Buffalo? If it would have been me, I would have loved to have seen Buffalo and Cleveland in this AFC Championship game because of the pain that both fan bases have had to suffer over the course of the last several decades. But what the Bills fans did was pure class. The Buffalo Bills fans won a game in which Lamar Jackson had to be taken off the field with a concussion, and a bunch of fans banded together to collect $75,000 for Lamar Jackson's charity. And I thought that if there was more of that amongst fans, I would feel a lot better about this rather than the fans taking on the callous attitude of owners who just use these players like pawns on a chessboard, and they're not expendable pieces. And Mahomes should never have run the ball in that play. And Andy Reid should be ashamed of himself for allowing that play to be put out on the field. It was a guy with, now normally I say, okay, it's not a problem, but when he's already hurt with his left foot to the point where he was clearly limping, I don't think running wide and diving him head first is exactly the best idea in the world. But, I got nothing negative to say. I think that honestly, the way this goes down, the two best AFC teams are in the final of the AFC Championship game. And I think you can't deny that. So
no, they showed it all season, and they've shown it clearly in the playoffs.
I think the running game was invisible in the first half. We had 18 yards rushing. I mean, it wasn't there. And
they were getting constantly stuffed behind the line. But, when Darrell Williams is handed the fucking ball, he falls forward for 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 yards.
No, it's all about
Jesus H. Christ.
It's all about rhythm. And once the Browns in the second half got their rhythm of running and blocking, they were just mowing them down like we had many other opponents. And we ran down the field. We ended up with 47 yards rushing in one possession to get that touchdown. And we were hurting them with the running game. We just couldn't get into that kind of a pattern early. And I think part of that is inexperience. I think that, I can't begin to tell people, when you do something long enough, you see a lot of things. And if you're competent at what you're doing, you will eventually figure it out. And, I was 10 years in the city of Flint, and then I moved my business. I bought into properties in Binghamton. It took me 2.5 years to accomplish what it took me 9.5 years to accomplish in Michigan. I just became more efficient. I just became cooler headed, calmer, because I'd seen the things before. And I think it takes experience. And this is the Browns' first experience. Hell, it was the first playoff win for Baker Mayfield. It was the first playoff win for the franchise, playoff game in 18 years, and the first win in 26. You have to take it one leg and one piece at a time. It's like putting on your pants, for God's sakes. And for the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs are very fortunate that they got through. And it would have been a rotten shame if it would have happened because Mahomes couldn't play and win the game for them. So I don't feel bad about the outcome because the better team did win. And I'm willing to admit that. But I'll say this, that the Browns have a lot of courage. The Browns have a lot of heart. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. Baker Mayfield showed his resilience. Nick Chubb in the second half showed his resilience after an underperformance in the first half. The Cleveland Browns came to play, came to win, and I know that, you can see the look on Higgins' face, how disappointed he was. on that play at the goal line. A very unfortunate thing. But it's what you gets you hungrier in the offseason, and now you really have a chance. If you can get better players surrounding you on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to have more chances to win games like this. And the next time you see this, maybe Stefanski's going to have better go-tos, and he's going to have the experience of hindsight, which nobody on the team has. And again, you want the defense to play like they're intelligent. First of all, he ran for 13.5 yards on a 3rd and 14. So be accurate with what you're saying. And second of all, it's like if you're an NBA fan, Raw Dogs, it's like saying, well, I want Colin Sexton and I want Darius Garland to be able to guard people and back them down when they're only 6 foot and 6'1", and the guys they're covering are 6'4" and 6'5". The physicality of the game does determine the intelligence of the player. There's only so much you can do. And the defensive players, no matter how smart they are too slow getting to their spots on the field, and they're just ineffective. And I will say it again and again and again. You don't believe me, but you'll see. When you get better players on the field, you're going to be stunned next year at how the defense flies around compared to what you're seeing this year, which looks like an insect caught on flypaper. Honest to God. It's slow right now. Really, seriously slow. And, and again, this is the kind of effort, Myles Garrett running 45 yards downfield to make a tackle. And the fact is, he couldn't outrun the guy up further upfield and made a play on it because, he can't be covering a receiver, but he stayed with the play. And, effort means a lot, but you've got to have the physicality and the effort all in one. And when you're playing on your heel and you're concerned about you can't let anybody get behind you. It's why I don't understand why they allowed Henne to throw that ball in the end zone, that dirigible he threw. My goodness, that could have been an absolute season ender for the Kansas City Chiefs. They wanted to bite off and get the big bite and end the game right then and there. And he just, my God, Joseph, fair catch, in the end zone. I mean, that was really a very peculiar situation,
I have a question about the actual game itself.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you think Kevin Stefanski, with the way they ran that last drive where they ran it slow kind of and methodical, do you think they should have went for it on 4th and 9?
There will always be questions. And when he punted the ball, I turned to Rox and I said, last time they're going to see the ball. You have to look at it that way. There is no tomorrow. And I really believe that if he had to do it again, he would go for it. He would just draw up and call up the best play that he has and try to get it done. Yeah. Because, honestly, the 3rd down call, getting 3 yards was of no value whatsoever. And, again, I was not enamored with the play calling in the last possession. But, yeah, I think the second you punted that thing away with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left or whatever, and the fact that you were down to 1 timeout because confusion on the 3rd and 16 or whatever it was.
And that bad challenge on that Tyreek Evans catch.
Honestly, can we touch on that real quick? Just because the challenge, that was a tough challenge that whoever's watching the challenge, because that other play where they had it, they should have challenged and they didn't.
Right.
The ball came out and hit the ground. So, and I don't know if it was because they weren't getting the replay fast enough or whatever, but whoever's in charge of telling head coach to throw the flag, I think they kind of kicked it. The one obviously was bobbling it, but
I wonder seriously if there's a communication issue. Whenever you play on foreign soil, you wonder if there's suddenly a disconnect in the headset. Yeah, Brunk.
The good thing about that challenge timeout, even though it was obviously always going to be a catch, was it stopped them from quickly running a play when we were out of position too. So I didn't really have that much of a problem with that challenge, even though it was obviously a catch.
Yeah, but it cost you a timeout that you damn well needed.
Yeah, obviously, but they could have hit on a big play if that had not been challenged. So that's the other way to look at it.
The big factor to me is with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left, you either punch or you go for it. Is predicated on how many timeouts you got in your back pocket. And if you only have one, that means you can only stop the clock once and at the 2-minute warning. What that means, for all practical purposes and intents, you have to get a 3 and out.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we had to play a perfect game. We had to win the turnover battle. We lost that. We fumbled one out of the end zone. We had an interception. We had to start quickly and get a lead. We certainly didn't do that. We never had a lead in the game. And then we had to run the ball in the first half. We never did that. We never had the time of possession. So all the keys to victory that we've all been reading by all the pundits this week, we've missed on every single one of them, and we still only lost by 5 points. I think
exactly. Yeah, we had the Bronk. We had the ball with 8 minutes there, 7 minutes left in the game, with a chance to go down and score a touchdown and go to the freaking AFC Championship. Correct. I don't know about you guys, but I had a little tingle going, not that way, but I mean, I was excited. I'm like, I hadn't felt that way since it's been a long time, probably since Ohio State played Alabama and beat them in the 2014 playoffs. Yeah. And it was just one of those things. If you had told me we were going to be at that point having a chance to win, thinking I'm favored because they got Chad Henne, that little bitch on the other side. We got a fucking chance to win this game.
That's right.
And I felt so. It was just like, I got the tingles going. I'm like, we have a chance here. And
who can ask? I mean, you realize all you can ask if you're a guy who's fighting Mike Tyson is to get through 5 rounds and try to see if he gets tired. You got to get so deep into this thing, into the belly of the beast. And at that point, you have a chance to pull it out. And, it didn't work out this time. Did we play a perfect game? No, we didn't play a perfect game. We had too many penalties and we had an interception. There were too many things that we didn't accomplish defensively where we could have gotten them off the field. But I will say this, that we came back down 19-3 to get to 19-10. And we did that when Mahomes was still out of the field playing, and then we got the ball back, and you make things a close battle, and you hope for the best at the end. And
the good thing was Kansas City's kicker was the one that was partying it off the goalpost. It wasn't Parkey that was choking today. They'll have 7 points on the fucking field with bad kicks.
And that guy is usually money in the bank. I mean, he is something else.
And Fortune,
like a 6-yarder.
Fortune was on our side last week. Let's be honest. I mean, Fortune was on our side big time against the Steelers, and the whole thing with Higgins. Unfortunately, Fortunes didn't smile on us as much today. But
well, I've got my emotional support kitty here with me, so I'm all right.
What I can tell you is, had we won the game today and you have to go into a cold weather Buffalo destination, you got to go against another strong arm quarterback who has receivers who are way faster than your guys, and you're going to have to play the same defensive scheme. There is only one scheme the Browns defense can play, and that is never blitz, never get a pass rush, and stand in the middle of the field and hope there's a deflection and get an interception.
Yeah, and deflect the ball and pick it off.
And give up receptions without men being within 3 to 5 yards of the guy catching the ball. That's what you got. So, and try to keep the game close enough like we did today, down to 22 points, and hope that you can squeak by and get 24. That's it. And that would have been the same way against Buffalo. It would have been the same exact thing. And if you think we're going to cover Stephon Diggs? I mean, we got to be serious. I mean, we got as far as we were.
Not only Stephon Diggs, but they have John Brown who can run past anybody on the Browns too.
Yeah, and Cobb Lee 57. I couldn't agree with you more. The first thing is that we got our head coach. Because we haven't been able to say that in an eon of time. This is the coach I feel best about since Sam Rutigliano. And the reason is he got guys to buy in. And then second, the late Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer got guys to buy in to that, to the whole scheme of things. Ever since then, the coaches we've had, whether it was Belichick insulting his players, Butch Davis spying on his players, first-time coaches who were, behind the wheels of runaway trains with Ozzy Osbourne, whether it's a kumquat like Shermer, a double wider like Freddie Kitchens, or Quay Jackson, the most revolutionary leader of all time. We've had one butte after another, really. And we finally got our head coach. This guy's a bright young fellow, and he will learn. At 38 years of age, he did a wonderful job. And Baker Mayfield has come into his own. You cannot point to this game and say, well, the bad Baker showed up. None of that whatsoever. I'd say that everything was as it should have been, and the result was really what most people would have anticipated. And for me, it was what I hoped for, but just a chance. I wanted to see if the team had enough, good fortune in them at that last possession they could get the ball in the end zone. It didn't, and unfortunately, that excitement didn't last very long because we didn't hold on to the ball very long. So, the great reference by Tony Romo to the late Marty Schottenheimer. We still don't know what a gleam is, but I guess it showed up again. And whenever it shows up, we lose.
I believe it's a gleam of hope.
Gleam. I hate that fucking gleam. Oh, God. What the NFL wanted and didn't want didn't come down to it in the end. What came down to it is that the Kansas City defense rose when they had to and stopped the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns, when they get caught in a bidding war in a poker game, folded their hand and punted at 4th and 9. And Andy Reid would have gone for it to win the game. But he has more weapons and more speed and a weaker defense that he's going up against. But that's what I take away from this.
And he's had 9 years of consistency to build his team.
That's exactly right. He's got positions filled across the board on that team. Some wonderful, wonderful players on the Kansas City Chiefs.
We know the defense is probably going to be in for a pretty major overhaul.
I think so.
I'm assuming, of course, you're keeping Garrett, you're keeping Ward.
Sure.
Sheldon Richardson, keep him.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
I think you get rid of everybody else.
Vernon, after the injury, is not going to be back.
Vernon's a free agent, too.
Yeah, you need to find somebody a lot stronger than Porter Gustin. You got to find, Ogunjobi will be back, but it's not like that doesn't exactly make my biceps ripple.
Now it's a rotational player.
A free agent too,
Harrison was a good pickup this year. That was a nice pickup.
Yeah,
for what you got for him.
But
he's going to be a situational guy. He's not going to be an every down guy.
That's exactly right. And when your backups are as good as Ronnie Harrison, that's when you're ready for prime time. All right. Your starting players have to be a cut above that, and they have to be, and it'll be interesting to see how the Browns approach this. But yeah, we're not looking for a quarterback. That's a good thing. And I'll tell you the danger in Baltimore is that they keep this coach in place because they signed him to a longer term deal. They're going to bring in a different offensive coordinator. And, the young man is talented, but there's still questions about Lamar Jackson's ability to lead a team from behind to victory when he has to throw the ball in tight windows. There is that question. And if you take a look at the ball that he threw that was the pick 101, my goodness, that ball was wobbling like a duck. That was just not only an ill-advised throw, and people are going to continue to question this as long as they play this goofy scheme that they're in. So you never know.
The scheme breeds tendencies, and the tendencies are always going to get exploited. So you have to change those.
That's
and
right.
Greg Wilman doesn't really have the personnel or
No
the
go-to.
mental capability to change his scheme enough to really alter the tendencies and keep the defense off balance. Unlike Stefanski.
Yeah, there's a big difference between the Beatles and the Electric Light Orchestra. I mean, both had top 10 singles, but the difference is that everything that ELO did sounded the same, and the Beatles were revolutionary as far as evolving sound in rock music. I mean, you have to be able to evolve in a sophisticated way, and your quarterback has to be able to absorb more than just one system. And the longer this goes on with Greg Roman, the question is going to be whether the reason they're doing it is because Lamar Jackson can't pick up on a new or different scheme. And that's doing an injustice to the young man. Give him an opportunity. He's such a talent, but if the only way you're going to exploit that talent is have him scramble around back there, then it really is a waste. Or if that's all he can do, then he's really not the quarterback who's going to lead you consistently into any depth in the playoffs. In which case, I think Baker Mayfield would catapult ahead of Lamar Jackson. If that's the case, we just don't know. We're going to have to find out. So there are going to be changes in Baltimore. So we're going to be, believe it or not, one of the two teams, and maybe the only team in the AFC North that has continuity from the year before. And we're going to have a whole offseason to practice it. And hopefully, we won't have all of these, left tackle injuries and the things that are multiple injuries in one position kind of scenario. This is what we ran into. It was tough all the way around, and the Browns went down fighting, and I give them nothing but the greatest of credit. If you want to look at I'll look at the stats of this game, and stats don't tell the full story. By the way, the Saints are beating the Bucs 3-0. I'm sure you're watching out of the corners of your eyes if you're listening to this program. Looking at the stats. 23 of 37 for 204 yards, only a 74.6 rating, and that's largely because of the interception that was thrown and the slightly lower percentage of completions that he threw. Chubb still averaged 5.3 yards per carry, and so did Kareem Hunt, but only 112 yards rushing for the game for the team. All right. That's, considerable problems there. Higgins, 5 catches for 88, Njoku, 4 for 59, Jarvis Landry,
There's
7
for
20.
Right now.
The ball was spread around. Again, it wasn't the issue of the ball not getting spread around. It was more an issue of when you needed it the most, we did not execute the way we needed to. And that's not unusual for a first-time team in a first-time situation. So, meanwhile, Tyreek Hill, 110 yards, Travis Kelce, 109. Those two guys basically crushed us. And then Hardman, who's faster than anybody on the Browns, he had 4 receptions for 58. Those 3 guys amassed in the receiving game, let me see, 167 and 277 yards amongst those 3 receivers. One, Kelce, is just an all-pro player. Tyreek Hill is so much faster and Hardman so much faster than the Browns. They just couldn't cover the field. And we just can't get to the quarterback. We just don't put pressure on any quarterback. And that includes, unfortunately, 35-year-old Chad Henne. And you would think that would be the way that you would get them off the field. 3rd and 14 would be to put big pressure on him and force him to make a fast decision. And instead, we bought him time. And again, you end up the game with 1 sack, and it had to be better than that. We only gave up 1 sack. It's the stats don't tell me anything that the final score doesn't tell me, is what it amounts to. Nothing new. Yes.
Stats tell you I was gonna say the stats tell you it was a very competitive game, and that was just what it was. And they were right in it with a chance to win it. And if you had told me that back in September after that first game of the year, I would have said there's just no possible way that I would not have believed this. So it's been a heck of a great ride, that's for sure.
I'll tell you, you're going to say I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but I mean, on a comparative basis, I think Schobert's better than the linebackers we have out on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not saying a whole hell of a lot, mind you.
No.
But it's something that is relevant to the conversation.
And Christian Kirksey got in last night as well for the Pack. So.
Yeah, I mean,
he certainly could have played as well in this with this.
Thank you, Alan Lazard.
If he is not hurt, I mean, again, a lot of these players, if they just become injury prone, it's what it is.
But there's certainly that. Well, like I said before, that there's that option. I think a talented player can step in here and contribute right away, and I think they can get somebody. That's probably the difference, because the organization is the Browns isn't just the Browns. You know what I mean? The organization is trending the right way. Obviously, they look like a team that can do well. The second half of the year, they were one of the better teams in the league when they weren't out with COVID. So it's going to be an attractive situation for the right people. I think they can bring in a couple people on defense, kind of like they did with Jack Conklin this year, and bring in somebody that's going to solidify that defense, particularly up the middle.
Yeah, and I don't agree with D-Cup toe juice. I don't think we choked. And I don't think we had the game 3 times. I think we had the ball in our hands with a chance to take the lead, and we ran a bad series. I really do. But choked, no, the team showed a lot of character. And, I don't know. How many fans were in the stands? I'm just curious about that. How many did they let in? Anybody have that number?
I think it was 20K.
Yeah, I mean, and you can say
that was a pretty full stadium.
Compared to what I've been seeing, absolutely. Because all 3 levels had people seated in them. But again, you got to remember the Browns have been used to calling plays and being
16,730 was the exact amount.
And they're not used to playing with noise. And in the first half, they were jumping off and making some foolish plays. And, I think all of this comes into play. And I think it's all part of a learning experience, because next year, God willing, these stadiums are going to be packed with people, and there's going to be a whole nother factor thrown into the mix,
Yep.
And to me, this is the real trap, a landing spot for free agents, but they've got to be the right free agents. And,
you can't just go sign random people, and you got to make a right fit.
And you got to figure out what positions you really need help in. And you need veteran presence. I mean, as much as you say, well, I want young guys who do that. Everybody wants a young guy in his prime who's a great player, but that's not likely. You need to have glue. You need to have people who supplement one another. And
what's the Browns salary cap looking like? Because I'm a firm belief. I think they're going to trade Odell Beckham.
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think that the Browns have a problem at all. I think they were like number 3 in the league in the amount of salary cap they have. Okay. I think they're in good shape, but I think like anything else, you have to analyze. Being as good looking as we are right now, you're not going to get every piece in one off season. So you really have to. Your free agents need to be people who bolster the linebacker core and pass defense, all right, secondary. I mean, that to me is more important than anything. And then you can start looking, when you're drafting players, at maybe drafting some defensive linemen, people who are going to make a difference that way. Yeah, Bronk.
It's the Steelers that got massive problems with the salary cap, and
Yes, that's true.
big ones have like 40 million or whatever. So they're the ones that have the big problem trying to get free agents. And we're not going to get those shitty free agents that we got a couple of years ago, like Jamie Meter and all those guys that just came here for a big fat paycheck and then did no fucking work. Yeah, Carlos
Dansby was another one.
Yeah, did no work whatsoever. Just came here for the money. We're going to get guys that want to play and get a ring and work.
And this talk about and Key's asking about the Odell Beckham possibility of a trade. Odell Beckham coming off a massive knee injury, who's done nothing in Cleveland, is not going to get you any. He's going to get you no value in return. And if you don't believe me, ask people who have tried trading so-called superstar players with big contracts. It's just not going to happen.
If we could package up our first round this year and our first round next year to move up 10 spaces to get like a Patrick Surtain or get like a key linebacker or something, then that would be a good idea.
Yeah, because you're going to be you'll be drafting 28 right now, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean
32 teams. Yeah.
What we've proven, we don't need running backs. We don't need a quarterback. We don't need offensive linemen. Okay. We don't need tight ends, okay? Because Njoku did well today. So
Njoku played really well.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't need those things. So right off the bat, you're like, well, we got to help out Myles Garrett. We got to get a pass rush on the other side of the line, and it's not going to come from Olivier Vernon. So you need somebody who's powerful.
I mean, if you're going to draft on defense, edge rushers are the biggest busts going. How many edge rushers actually become proper edge rushers in the NFL? I'd say like 1 out of every 3 coming out of college. But if you get a stud linebacker like Roquan Smith or the guy on the Steelers that got Devin Bush, or you get like Khalil Mack even, if you find that top linebacker, second good linebacker,
he covers all the ground and he impacts the game. You're right. I mean, and that's what you're looking for. And that should be, and the Browns having as good a record as they did, they're of course going to drop down and not get the best pick. But, you might be able to get a guy who, and look, the Steelers and Ravens have been able to get linebackers for time and all the time. And you just got to know what to look for. And
they got Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden when they moved to Baltimore. They would have been Cleveland Browns if they stayed.
My feeling is that Greedy Williams will never play again. That's what my guess is. And that Delpit, I believe, is going to try to get back out there. And he could be good or he could be something that's a disappointment, like any rookie player that we haven't seen. So
cornerback is going to be
no proven commodities.
Cornerback is going to be a need too.
That would be good. I mean, if Delpit's good enough to play, he's got to be better than Stonewall Jackson and some of these other guys who we practice squads from the Jets.
Yeah, cornerback depth's going to be a big thing too, because you can't go into another season with MJ Stewart and who is the backup, Jackson. Yeah, you can't be having those guys as your number 2 cornerback.
Stonewall Johnson.
Yeah. So, well, I guess what it comes down to is the front office has to do its job now and get the right pieces on the field, and then we can judge Joe Woods, because that becomes
Judge Joe Woods coming up next.
That's right. You're going to have to figure out that's the guy leading your defensive troops on the field. And I'd feel more comfortable if I were being judged with better personnel.
I went from gang member on the mean streets of Detroit City to sitting on the bench.
Bad boys, what you gonna do when they come for you?
So, my message is, as I get ready to get out of here, it was a fun season. It was the most fun season I've had.
Can we have Mr. Celery do a little woo-hoo?
By the way, this is the best season of the new Browns.
Yeah, and really, I mean, since I've started podcasting, which was in 2004, this is by far the most exciting season in a team. And it's more than just the result. I like the team. I like the direction. I like that they're not talking trash and that they're about getting to work and that they actually composed themselves at halftime and came out and played a better second half than they did a first half. These are the steps against, a really fine football team. You want to see that we were able to pick up and raise our intensity. We just didn't have enough to get over the hurdle because I think when you're a 3-time in a row AFC championship game defending Super Bowl team, you know what it takes because you've been there. And on that last possession, they ratcheted up whatever energy they had left to hurl themselves at us, and they deserve credit for that. And we did not run something that is what I would have run in a situation like that. They were going all out, and when you're going all out, you can be caught in something. And I would have really been looking at doing not any trick plays or anything like that, but I would not have run the set of plays that the Browns ran. But that's it. It's been a pleasure having everybody participate in the post-game and halftime shows. And now we go through the season of hibernation with the Cavaliers and the Indians. My apologies for that, but doesn't mean I stop podcasting. It just means I lose all fucking interest. But I will be here, and I promise.
Relax, they're not the Indians. They're the Cleveland baseball team.
Yeah.
Kansas City football team.
And I just want to get all of the remnants of 2020. Okay. Yeah, I want to get all of the bad news from last year out of the way. I want to move into this new year. And I want to say one last thing. And this is, again, I know people who have gotten their first vaccine shot, and now because of distribution issues, they may not be able to get their second shot within the 24 to 28 day window that's necessary. And this is why we have to take this out of the hands of amateurs. And we have to have a national initiative to get this thing done properly. And I want to see everybody get that vaccine and be able to feel good about getting it and eradicating this virus from our midst so that we can at least enjoy our lives. To hell with just the sport. The NBA season is already going down the shitter because of this thing. And our lives are still in partial or complete lockdown, depending on what kind of risk factors you have. I just want things to get better. And we're not going to have the Browns to carry us. We're going to have the Cavaliers and then the Indians. So I don't believe that we're all going to be vaccinated until summertime. So we've got a ways to go. So keep tuning in here. I keep my sense of humor because I always try to keep a good attitude about things. All right. So everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hammer Time, Bronk and Brian and Tony and everybody else who's been a part of this. Thank you. Keep joining me for the podcast, man. The numbers and viewership might drop down, but hey, I'm putting the same amount of work into those shows as I do these, which is absolutely done.
Very little.
And thanks to Key for joining us from north of the border.
Oh yeah, we had a Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
She's in Edmonton.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it's a complete shutdown up there, man.
Go Oilers.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the team she hates the most. She's a Maple Leafs fan.
Oh,
all right, everybody.
Sorry.
Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow on Moohead Radio, 6:00 Eastern Standard Time. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Great season, Browns, and we'll be seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.